Content warnings for this episode include fantasy violence, body horror, gore, monsters and monstrosity, death and killing, apocalypse, trauma, animal violence, complex and complicated relationships, flirting, and romance.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Arc 5, Episode 8. Ooh, the midpoint of Arc 5 of The Second Stranger. I am your GM and creative producer, Connie. My pronouns are they, he, and she. You can find me on TikTok and Twitch. No, not on Twitch. I always say Twitch. Twitter. And on Ko-Fi at by Connie Chong. That's BYCONNIECHANG. I'm going to pass along introductions to Erica.
Hi, everybody. I'm Erica, she, her pronouns. I play V. I've got serious problems with commitment, not sure. So not really. I mean, I've got two wives. What? But you can find me at Erica Newgirl on all social media that I exist. I'm a Twitch streamer here. I've been speedrunning Resident Evil 7. I've also been playing some other games like Fallout 4 and de-rusting my old speedrun of Day of the Tentacle. Don't know what Day of the Tentacle is? Come find out. Max, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Max. My pronouns are they, them. I play Dewey Quirk, and you can find me on social media at Starchmonger. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter sometimes, and I'll follow you back on TikTok. I don't post, but I'll follow you back. I'll pass to Austin.
Hey, I'm Austin. My pronouns are he, they, and she. You can find me on Twitter at You can find me on Twitter at Sailor. That's at Sailor SCT Austin. I'm not as good at this whole part like these seasoned folk. I'm still a little new here, getting tongue-tied, but Connie's going to take us away and tell us about this episode.
Yes, we love you though, Austin. Just know that there's so much love from me to you. Yes, of course. So this is episode 8 of The Second Stranger, which is, of course, our main Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And we are so proud to announce that this episode of The Second Stranger is sponsored by at Dimitri Opines on Twitter. That is DMITRYOPINES. And also sponsored by Explain Trade, which is a negotiation skills training consultancy believing in the power of Dungeons and Dragons and Transplanar's potential to grow, tell great stories, and lift up our community. Explain Trade, if you don't know what they do, trains negotiators for governments, big companies, NGOs, and offers e-learning courses for individuals looking to get a better deal from their boss. So to up your charisma score, check out explaintrade.com and follow Dimitri on Twitter. He's amazing and great and a really cool person to get to know. So speaking of, I think, ways to support our show and our journey, Austin, would you like to tell folks about our podcast?
I would love to tell people about the podcast. My tongue is not tied anymore. Now I will speak perfectly about this perfect podcast that we have that premieres every Tuesday at the crack of dawn. We are in Arc 3, and it's carnival time. Please leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbeans, wherever you pod your cast. It really helps out this perfectly crafted podcast. And I'm no longer tongue-tied. And since I'm no longer tongue-tied, I can tell you about our perfect patrons. As a reminder, patrons get early access to the podcast episodes and all bonus content that we create, like ARC booklets and monthly gaming nights and cast Q&As and the such. So please support us with the podcast, support us with the Patreon, and we have some huge shout-outs for you special patrons.
Yes. So a huge shout out to our Patreon Paragons. These are patrons pledged to our highest tier on Patreon. So thank you so much to Abigail Rytel, Azura, Brooke Bright, Charles, Chiacres, Cora Eckert, Lex Slater, Marvelous, Mitzi, Moonflower Tea, Purple Mouse, and Target. And as always, a haiku for you. I actually forgot to write a haiku, so I'm going to come up with it on the spot. I had to do this with the other party too, so it's only fair that y'all get one as well. Shadow monster fight is looming now, coming close. Will we win or die? There we go.
Bam!
Oh. Motherfucker. Erica, why don't you tell us about donations?
Yeah, so we've talked about podcasts, we've talked about Patreon. The other way that you can support us is during this broadcast, you can do a donation. We have goals and incentives for this stream. Donos are now going towards super fun bonus scenes, playlist drops, and more. So you can use Command Donate at any time in chat to support our all-trans, person-of-color-led cast and keep the chaotic queer content alive. And now, Erica's favorite part. Max, can you please explain what's happening for Grandma Erica?
I will try my very best. As a reminder, you can get to our recap document. It's updated every week with full recaps of every episode by going to bit.ly/transrecap or by using the !recap command in the chat. Here's what happened last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, with this party. Before heading out of camp towards the Great Herd, the team has some unfinished business to attend to. Dewey hurriedly slaps together a makeshift god jar. V usurps Oka as the team's resident horse girl. Manaya decides she can't let the Uhanians suffer any longer and sets off in that direction. Abiku outsources her information to the local birds, taking a break to bone the nearest world leader. After a bit of traveling, the team comes upon a ruined settlement flattened by the herd and the great hunter made of darkness following it. As night falls, they get up close and personal with that 80-foot monstrosity. And now for today's episode. As always, our titles come from artists and poets from marginalized communities. Today's title comes from Somewhere a Sun from Summer Somewhere by Dinez Smith. The full verse reads, Somewhere a sun, below boys brown as rye play the dozens and ball jump in the air and stay there.
Thank you, Max. Speaking of this episode, let's move on to content warnings for this episode. And our campaign in general may include fantasy violence. We're about to fight big fantasy things of fantasy violence, body horror, gore, monsters and monstrosity, discussion of death and killing, apocalypse, trauma, complex and complicated relationships, flirting, romance, animal violence. So use !CW in chat for a full list of content warnings and !safety for a look at the cast's lines and veils. And with that out of the way, let's begin. Have you ever stood in complete darkness? Pitch black shadow, no light, no glimmer, not even the echo of a memory of daylight. Your senses begin to lie to you. Your eyes show you images that simply aren't there. Your hands moving in front of your face, figures darting on your periphery. Your hearing heightens. You perceive your own heartbeat, your own breath, the sweat trickling down the nape of your neck. You smell your own sour fear leaching from your pores like black tar. And you see nothing. Nothing at all. Abiku, Dewey, and V. Your torches flicker in the chill midwinter breeze. Cold wind bites your exposed cheeks, threading icy fingers through your hair. The three of you stand at attention, your bedrolls half-made, tense, half-pitched weapons drawn. A sea of dark grass, hunched boulders, and rolling meadow quivers around you. Your breaths escape from your parted lips in thick plumes of white before vanishing into the darkness. The darkness presses against the edges of your torchlight, a globe of shadow threatening to consume this paltry fire. The ground shakes. Boom! It shakes again. Boom! And that's when you see it. 40 feet in front of you, dust. Black particulates of shadow drifting through the wind toward your party like ashen snowflakes. They flutter against your eyelashes, your fingertips, your lips painlessly, and you're struck by how nothing they feel. They're not cold like snow or hot like volcanic ash. They don't smell like brimstone or ice or sleet or rain. No, this dust fluttering all around you just simply isn't. And then, ballooning out of the void in front of you, a column of liquid shadow. It sloughs against the winter grass, and you hear a sizzling noise, kind of like flesh hitting a hot pan, as the grass flattens, withers, dies underneath it. And the shadow ribbons itself into a shape, a claw, and then an arm, a shoulder, a throat, a head. And solidifying in front of you 40 feet away is a hound, the size of a small hill, 25 feet tall perhaps, with no eyes, no markings, just pitch black, inky void. Dark dust swirls around this hound like blood going down a drain. And then, boom! The earth trembles again, boom, and again, and your horses whinny in fear, pulling against the post they're hitched to, and that's when the three of you see the second beast. A gargantuan mass of shadow lumbering into the flickering circumference of light cast by your torches. A void foot, the size of 3 people, easily slams down. Boom! And you see that this foot is attached to an ankle, a shin, a thigh that looms just out of range of your torchlight. You have no idea how big this thing is. It's swallowed by the darkness above your heads, but it's at least the size, it seems, of a tower, if not bigger. And radiating off of its void black ankle, its lower leg, its skinless skin, its fleshless, shadowy flesh, is dust. Ashen, blackened dust filtering through the air, forming a thick miasma all around the battlefield. And now, the Hound's jaw unfurls, folds open like a flower, revealing rows and rows and rows of razor-sharp teeth, like the rasping mouth of a lamprey. The dust thickens around you, obscuring your vision. And I need the 3 of you to roll initiative.
This is fine.
All right, let's start with Dewey. What'd you get?
15.
Abiku?
Synthetic 20, 16 plus 4.
Ooh, Abiku got a synthetic 20. Erica?
15 as well.
Okay, so the first to act is going to be Abiku. The horses hitched to, the wooden hitching posts are straining, against like their bridles. They're like whinnying in fear. All around you, you smell this nothing. These flakes of like dusty particulates are just fluttering in front of you. You see this huge, massive 25-foot hound with like a huge like foot, right? And like a huge like shin right behind it. And it's snarling and growling at you 40 feet away. What do you do?
Okay, I'm first. All right, never fought with these people. Okay, yeah, I think I will use my action to summon Sun.
Ooh.
This thing seems like it's no bad news bear, so no, thank you. So I will do that, and so reaches into the ground, pulls up the skull, pulls up Sun, as you have seen a few episodes prior. So it goes immediately after, Sun goes immediately after me. So neat. And then for a bonus action, I will cast a spell.
Okay, what's the spell you're casting?
Lightning Arrow.
How does that work?
The next time I make a ranged weapon attack during the spell's duration, the weapon's ammunition or the weapon itself, if it's thrown, transforms into a bolt of lightning. Make the attack roll as normal. The target takes 48 lightning damage on a hit, or half as much damage on a miss, instead of the weapon's normal damage.
Okay, so Abiku, you sort of slam your fist down or your palm down onto the ground and you summon Sen. You summon Sun. So why don't you describe what that looks like?
So when Sun comes up out of the dirt, again, long skeletal, draconic-like body, not dragon. And I think Sun, instead of like coming out and seeming like fun and friendly, comes out and lets out a massive roar, and like deep in their throat you see this like crackling energy almost.
Yes, the earth kind of erupts around you where you make contact with it, and this like glowing orange sigil, the same color as like the orbs that light up the depths of Sun's skull, like ripple into existence in a circle around you, and just like one claw out, another bony claw out, and then like shaking off the earth, like Sun emerges, right, ribbons himself into existence, lets out this belching roar toward this hound, which snaps its void, inky black gaze upon Sun and responds in kind with a growl. And like these two beasts just sort of like snarl at each other, and Sun's like bony tail filled with spiky vertebrae like whips out, sort of like wraps almost protectively around you, Abiku. And you hear Sun in your head go, "Just tell me what to do. It's been a long time since we fought together."
Yes. I point at the thing. That thing, no good.
You got it. And Sun like crouches down, like ready to pounce and attack. And I think as you ready your lightning arrow, why don't you tell me what that looks like?
So I think it looks like the image you would do for like knocking a bow, even though she isn't like knock hers, almost out of muscle memory, and she pulls back and as the air gets sucked in, you see it like electrify, essentially. That's what we call that. And so it gets sucked in and start forming this bow, this arrow. And as it solidifies into the bolt, it solidifies into literally like she's gonna shoot a lightning bolt.
Yeah, there's a noise of like creaking tendon and like I think like wood as you like string your bow, and then like an electricity energy that like zaps all around you, like vibrates off your skin.
And
as,
I
like,
think
these, like, yeah.
The clouds in her face turn into like rolling lightning clouds.
Yeah, and like we all sort of hear and feel this like sucking, like thunderous noise, like vibrating around a Biku, right? Like almost like you're summoning a storm as like I think miniature clouds and mist and wind like whips around your bow as you string like a lightning arrow and get ready to point it, right? Is that your turn, or are you gonna move?
That is, I don't think she would move back at all. So I think I'm just gonna like come do something about it then.
Totally, yeah. You plant yourself and you draw a bead on this huge shadow hound, and Sun also gets ready to attack. As the horses, I think in the background are like whinnying and like neighing like crazy, like they want to get the heck out of here, right? But they're like hitched to that post. Yeah. I think next is gonna be Dewey.
Were we in the middle of? Had we like settled down for the night? Were we in the middle of getting ready for bed? Were we sleeping?
You were hunkering down for the night, and that's when like I think you all decided to like maybe stay on guard and like wait for this hunter to show up, right? That the vultures had talked about. So you were ready, like you weren't surprised by this. Like your weapons were drawn. I think like your tent is half pitched, right? Your bedrolls are half made. You were like kind of getting ready for a fight, kind of getting ready to bed down.
Okay, I think Dewey rushes into the tent where he stashed the god jar, and he goes into the tent and tries to like get it out of harm's way.
So you're gonna use your action to keep the god jar safe?
Yes.
Okay. Let's call that a sleight of hand check to see how successful you are.
All right.
That's a funny look on your face.
That's a funny number I rolled. How's a 10 do?
A 10. That's pretty middling, Dewey, not gonna lie.
Super
you have a flash
average.
of genius?
I do. I just don't think that Dewey's in that mindset right now.
Okay.
It's sort of like a desperate scramble for.
You scramble into this like half, like kind of like sunken in tent because like only like part of its shoulder is up, and you like tear through like blankets and pillows and other people's shit, like Rev's various whittled wooden knives, and you find like the god jar and you grab it, and it's safe. You see it's glazed ceramic, you see it glinting lowly in the torchlight filtering through the fabric, and it's safe. It's in your hands. How do you keep it safe?
I'm just gonna cover it with my body as much as possible and run away from this enormous hunter.
So you're gonna use your movement to flee in the opposite direction?
Correct.
Okay, so what's your full, are you flying or are you running?
I can move faster if I fly. Yeah. So I can move 50 feet if I'm flapping. Well, no, I'd be running because I need my arms to fly.
Right, because your arms are you're like a wyvern, Aarakocra. Yeah, okay. So all of you just see, as Abiku's doing her like dope ass like magic ranger shit, you just see Dewey run into a tent, grab the god jar, run out, and like run in the opposite direction.
Dewey's also like the whole time he's running is like watching Abiku wide-eyed. Like she just pulled out yet another bone dragon from the earth.
Wow, yeah, okay. So as you like start to flee, you hear Rev go, Dewey, what are you doing? As you like run in the opposite direction.
The jar, Rev. I'll be back.
Where are you going? We need you.
I'll be there. I just gotta get this out of the way.
Yeah, and you just continue to huff it like 50 feet away. 50 feet away is
25.
out of the torchlight. Oh, right, you're right.
25.
Oh, right, because you're not flying 25 feet. But like we see like Dewey just like huffing it, like stumbling a little bit, like maybe over some of the bedrolls, like past the horses who are like pawing at you, like trying to like looking wide-eyed at you, and you like run past all of it until like the guttural growl of like the hound sort of like almost starts to fade to the middle distance as you're hoofing it. And is that your turn?
Yep.
Okay. Let's go to V.
V uses her entire action to give eyes emoji at Dewey. No, I'm joking. I think V ran over and unhitched Shadow from the post and jumps not like riding on top, but like crouching on top of Shadow. It's like, come on, Shadow, and like runs towards the giant legs going up into the darkness.
Okay.
She's gonna cast Minute Meteor. She's gonna get 6 quick meteors rolling around her. And as she gets close, she's gonna leap off, do a flip, and throw, in midair, throw 2 meteors up to their full 120 feet to explode into the creature. However far 120 feet up goes for these meteors to try to hit it.
You're gonna try to see like if it will connect 120 feet into the air. Okay, that's gonna take several rolls here, V. So first of all, you go to Shadow, you unhitch Shadow, you hop on Shadow's back, and like compel Shadow to run toward the base of this monster. Give me an animal handling check, because Shadow is scared out of his mind.
17?
That is sufficient. Tell me how you coax Shadow and like calm his nerves.
I think V is gonna be like, once unhitched and gets onto Shadow's back, it just I think she actually puts her head like on Shadow's head, like in Shadow's mane, and just like, it's okay, friend, we've got this, I'm with you right here.
The terrified, anxious neighing and whinnying sort of dies down, and you sort of see like the ears like that were pinned back in anxiety and fear sort of like turn forward. And even though Shadow is scared out of his mind, bless his heart, he like pulls away from the hitching post and gallops towards certain danger, like whinnying the entire way, but like feeling more confident with you on his back. And as Shadow gets close and close and close, I think you like stand up in the stirrups, right? And you like put your hands up and poof. So make an attack roll with disadvantage because you don't know what you're hitting.
Does a 28 hit?
With disadvantage?
Oh, sorry, shit, I gotta roll one more time, damn it. Only 19.
Okay, how many meteors are you throwing? Is it 1 or 2?
I can throw 2 as a bonus action.
Okay, so why don't you roll the second one as well?
16?
Okay, neither of them hit, but how this works, how combat works in Transplanar is you can either take the miss, or you can let it hit, deal damage, but it gets to store a reaction against you for the number of times you've missed.
I will take... This is my sort of devil's bargain. If I miss, does it still illuminate enough to give better advantage for the next shots for everybody who's doing ranged weapons?
If it's temporary, no.
All right.
But if it can somehow like stay lit up, then it will remove disadvantage but not give advantage.
In that case, I will go ahead and take the hits and give the reactions.
Sounds good. It gets 2 reactions. Roll your damage twice.
16 points of fire damage.
Okay, noting that down. Describe to me what it looks like as you send it hurtling up into darkness.
Yeah, so V is gonna leap off and just like the whirling fire meteors of fireball. She's gonna grab one, throw it, and then as she's like turned back over, about to land, and like Shadow is running up underneath V, and throw the other one, like from the other side, and hopefully they just sort of like crash near where she thinks the top of this thing is.
Yeah, these 2 flaming orbs, boom. All of you just see like pinpricks, like almost like little fireworks being sent up like 120 feet into the air, and then they explode right into this thing's face. Or rather, its lack of a face. All 3 of you, maybe not Dewey if your back's turned, see for just like a half a second illuminated by this these sparks of a bright exploding fire. Like a kind of just like ovular head with no facial features, just completely black, attached to a thick like neck, and these like shoulders that come out. Almost like it's like a shadow person, just with no face, no defining features, and like its huge head, like the last thing you see before the meteors fade out, it's almost like little, like tiny little sparklers, you know, like little gnats, little flies pinging off against this massive head. The last thing you see before everything plunges back into darkness 120 feet up is this head turning to look down at V, right? And then poof, it like fades to darkness again. Is that your turn?
That is.
Next up is gonna be Rev, who... I'm gonna say she's gonna go after Dewey or fight. Well, V's in danger, so she's gonna fight. There's just a swirl of like dark raven feathers as she disappears from next to the horses and reappears right at the base of this thing's like massive foot that's like bigger than she is, right? Next to you, V, and your terrified horse that I think has like reared up onto his hind legs and is sort of kicking in the air. And Rev holds out a hand and Grim ripples into existence. She swings her scythe down to attack this thing like right at the ankles several times. So I'm gonna roll for her and see what she gets. This is also good info for y'all to know. Her first roll is a 24. Because she can see it, the bottom part, it's not made a disadvantage. Her second roll is also 24. And her third attack, I rolled the same number 3 times, is also a 24. None of them hit. But she is gonna take all 3 damages to make it, to give it 3 more reactions to store, to deal damage. So you want to just sort of go ahead?
On one of her swings, she will get to do an extra d6 of lightning damage. As she swings down, and you see Sun look over at Rev connecting, and you see this like orange electrical energy jump from Sun's body onto Rev's scythe. It's a reaction that Sun can do.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I think maybe on the third swipe, right? The first swipe, just like shadowy, like light erupts from Grim and just slices forward, almost like a echo, like coming forward like from her scythe and like rips into this ankle, right? And just sort of like disperses some of the dust, almost like she's like hitting like a really dusty mattress with like a baseball bat, and boom, just that explosion of dust comes off of it, right? Like almost like little butterflies of like just black particulates explode off of the surface of this ankle, and then one slash, then another slash, another explosion of dust, and a final slash imbued with this orange electricity. She turns to look at like Sun in that moment with like a look of like exhilarated gratitude, right? And like a Biku, you get the sense that like even though this is fucking terrifying and you're all like clearly like outsized, Rev seems to be having fun. Almost like when she's in a fight, she seems to be coming alive here, right? And she laughs and twirls around for that final strike and slashes it with the lightning damage.
Oh boy.
So that's going to be gonna deal 49 points of damage total to this thing. And she just like slices it, right? And like whirls around to throw her arm out to protect V as a bonus action. So next up is going to be this thing.
Boy.
It's going to be this thing. So the first thing it does, this massive gargantuan mass of a blackish humanoid vague figure, you don't hear noise, but you hear and feel pressure. Almost like you're at a concert and the bass is like so low that you can't even perceive the bass, but you feel it like thrumming in your sternum, you know what I mean? If you've been at a concert, like this low bass just shaking your bones right in your heart. Sort of like that, like pulse waves out from the soles of this thing's feet. And like you see all the little dusty particulates of the air just sort of shimmer and vibrate, especially around the Hound. And the Hound sort of tosses its huge head, almost like it's responding to this like wordless command that this huge hunter has just pulse waved outward. And the Hound is going to whip its massive gnashing maw at you, Abiku, who is 40 feet away, but this thing usually has 40 feet of movement. It's gonna bound toward you, and where it runs, you feel that like the ground just goes as it like charges you, and like where its black inky paws hit the ground, you see the earth just wither and die, right? Just like the grass just turns into like blackness and just dies away. And you like also notice that as it dies, it almost looks like the effects of overgrazing is like how it appears as this thing's running over the earth at you. And it is going to try to attack you with its huge gnashing like 5 foot wide maw. So I need you to make a DC 20 strength save.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. It's not ready for a save to get hit. But I am very strong. How's a 22?
That is good. Okay, so you will only take half damage. That's
cool.
Gonna be a total of, I just have to cut it down in half. Oh, that's not so bad. 7 points of slashing damage and 4 points of poison damage. As this huge...
I'm resistant to poison!
Then 2 points of poison damage! I'm so glad this is working out! Yay! That matters! Yeah, this thing barrels at you, right? As you're like charging up your bow. Maybe you turn your bow on it at the last moment, but then it just barrels at you. And you brace your ground so you're not knocked prone or grappled by this thing, but it is chomping at you, right? Like it's sloughing this kind of black saliva on you that's sort of sizzles at your skin. That's where the poison damage is from, like where it hits you. And I think like part of its maw, because it's so big, bites at your arms and your hands and like rips into you, right?
I have 2 things.
Go ahead.
One, I made a con save because lightning arrow is a concentration until I use it. I got a 16, so I should be good.
That's sufficient. Yep.
2, for my reaction, I need it to make a strength saving throw.
What? Girl,
DC
okay.
17.
What? I shit you not, I got a 16. So it rolled really low. As like a plus 12.
It will take 2 d8 force damage and be pushed 10 feet away from it.
Oh, roll that force damage.
We're just having a shoving match.
5 force damage, and it's pushed 10 feet away from me as these. This is me flavoring it. I can tell people the feature later, but these winds whip up around a Biku and like shove this thing away from her as it hits.
Ooh, yeah, like you like, I think it smashes into you and there's like an initial force wave as like the dust swirls around you, and then you just throw it off with like wind. And it like, I think it hits the ground onto its side. This thing is like, you're 8 feet tall. It's more than twice as large as you because it's like 25 feet tall, right? So, but we all just see a Biku's like muscle strain and this like breeze gust out of like her, and this thing like falls. The ground like literally cracks and shakes and bends as it hits the ground and rolls away like 10 feet from you, but it like scrambles back onto its feet and snarls.
Yeah, I've done enough. Oh, not my turn.
Oh my god, that's so cool! Yes! Who says the ranger can't be a tank? Who says that? So the next thing that the hunter is gonna do is, I don't think any of you see this happen, but you hear kind of a noise like a, and I need, okay, V and Rev, because you're right at its feet, to make a dexterity saving throw.
Just so you know, I used a luck point to re-roll it, so it's in total a 22.
Okay, that is sufficient. Rev got a nat 1. I kid you not, Rev got a nat 1. So if you want, because you passed it, you can like kind of sacrifice yourself a little bit to like take some of Rev's damage to push her out of the way if you want, but you also don't have to.
I think V would try to protect Rev.
Okay, yeah, I think so. So you act on instinct alone, V, and your horse also makes a save. I'm not gonna hurt the horses here. The horse just scrambles away because you jumped off the horse, right? So the horse just peels away into the darkness, whinnying, as you just sort of see like a flash of white shoot down at you, and toward Rev, like you and Rev, like a huge column of white. What do you do in that split second?
I think V is going to just leap towards Rev and just like tackle her to the side to just try to get out of the main hit of white light, whatever it is.
Okay, you tackle Rev. I think she's so like intent on you. I think she was talking to you. She was like, hey, V, that was great. Are you okay? What do you think? And you like tackle her, right? And the two of you fly through the air just as the tip of a massive bone spear like slams into the ground next to this thing's foot right where you and Rev were standing like a fraction of a second before. And you don't get like crushed by the spear, but the earth like erupts around like the point of contact because it's so huge. And like as like huge like chunks of like rock and dirt just like explode upward and like fling you and Rev back. Your body is protecting her, so you're gonna take the full brunt of it. And Rev's gonna take no damage, if that's okay with you.
Sounds good.
Okay, so you are going to take 23 points of bludgeoning damage and 7 points of cold damage. The bludgeoning is from all the rocks flying at you, but the spear seems to emit like a cold, like void kind of like magic as it like hit the ground and exploded outward at you as well. Yep.
I think V like will hit that and like hit the ground a little bit, and just like you can see that she's just got like some of her clothing is like ripped a little bit from all this earth shattering stuff.
Totally. And you see that the spear is like 5 feet wide with this like flat, kind of dry, almost like porous like spear tip, and like maybe 20 feet tall of like a thin kind of shaft that like goes up and like disappears into the darkness, right? And V, make a perception check for me as you're sort of lying there like head bludgeoned.
15.
You hear kind of faintly coming from within, you assume maybe the marrow of this spear, like within it, like a kind of like faint gurgling and kind of rhythmic beeping noise. Like go 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 gee, go 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 gee, go 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 gee, go 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 gee. And like the beeping seems to be getting louder and faster as every second ticks by. And that is going to be this thing's turn. We're going to go back to the top of the order with a Biku.
Yeah, I look at the dog thing that charged me and I like line it up with my arrow and I'm like, mistake. And I'm gonna shoot at this thing.
Okay, make an attack roll.
Does a 15 plus 9 hit? 15 plus 9 is 24?
24?
No, 24 didn't hit before, right?
24 does not hit. You can choose to deal damage anyway and give this thing a reaction, or have it miss as normal.
Well, since it's my lightning arrow, it will still take half damage.
Even on a miss?
Yep.
Okay, so you're taking
make
a
the
miss?
attack roll. Yeah, 4d8 on a hit or half as much damage on a miss. So I will roll the 4d8 and then let you know what half is. It was 13, so 6? You round
6.
down, right?
Yeah, we round down, so 6.
6 lightning for my first attack. I have 2 attacks as the ranger. Now I will roll a second attack. 28?
That does actually hit, so just roll damage as normal.
I can do this. Okay, I have a thing, favorite foe. When I hit a creature with an attack roll, I can mark the target as a favorite enemy. Is a special. It doesn't take an action or anything.
Yep, the ranger feat.
So I will
Yeah,
mark,
you got it.
I will mark that as a favorite enemy, and it'll take an additional d6 of damage.
What does marking an enemy look like?
I think the flavor was saying that was a mistake when it tried to hit her. All right, so it will take 17 piercing, and then 6 force, because my bow does an additional 1d6 of force damage.
Sounds good. So like this arrow ricochets off of your bow, and where does it spear this hound?
I think it gets it right, like near its mouth, because it tried to bite me, right? So I think it gets it like in the lip.
Yeah, it lodges in its lip, like, and missed its like many rows of like shark-like gnashing teeth, and like shakes its head trying to get it out like a toothpick lodged in its gum.
And then with my bonus action, I will point and say, "Son, that is the problem I need you to deal with."
And you just hear Sun go, "Gladly, Apiku," and like turn and let out like another roar that does not sound like his kind of like adolescent voice in your head. Just let out and like do exactly as you command. So what does Sun do?
It's gonna run over and make a bite attack. Will not hit because it's a 23.
Are you gonna have it deal damage anyway, or miss as usual?
It can miss for now. I have
Okay.
something else I'm thinking I'm cooking where I may
Okay.
want to take some damage. So that's it for me and Sun.
Okay, yeah, Sun pounces at it, and I think maybe Sun like latches onto a shoulder and just like won't let go, right? This thing's like trying to like thrash Sun off, but Sun's like, oh, like lashing on, and it's like rearing this huge 25-foot tall mastiff is rearing its like head that's got like several little like arrows poking out of it and trying to like shake Sun off, but Sun's holding on.
That's it for me. I think Abika doesn't notice that Dewey's running around or whatever. She's pretty focused.
You're pretty, yeah, exactly. Sounds good. So next up, speaking of the devil, Dewey. You are now 25 feet away from this scene of chaos as your friends are like tiny little ants fighting against this like huge dog and its even huger like owner, right? The hunter. What do you do?
You see Dewey set down the jar very carefully on the ground. Maybe behind like a bush or something. Maybe is there?
This is Kheer Tal. It's rolling fields. There are no bushes. There's maybe a boulder nearby.
All right, I set it down behind the nearest boulder or something, so it's not just out in the open.
There's like a big rock, and you think you hear like flowing water, maybe 300 feet away. You surmise maybe there's a river behind you or something.
Okay. So I set it down, and with his back turned, you see sort of like him bounce up and down, his shoulders go up and down, and he's just like psyching himself up for a second. And then he turns around and he's gonna fly in a diagonal line towards the head of the thing, because I have my goggles of night, but it only has a range of 60 feet.
Ooh. Okay, so you slip your goggles on and you take flight. There's like a reverberation of wind that sweeps out and like sweeps some of this dusty miasma away from you. Because even like 25 feet away, the dust like presence or like aura seems to like spread to where you are. It's kind of like partially obscuring your sight, and you flap up into the air and you begin to fly toward the head of this thing, which is it's at least 120 feet into the air. So if you fly at a diagonal, I can't do math. Let's just split the difference and say you get halfway there. So you'll be like 60 feet away from its head by the end of your movement, which is right within the range of your goggles of night, right? So Dewey, as you flap through the air, the cold midwinter breeze like gusting against your face, maybe some tears come out from the edges of your eyes, right? Even though you've got goggles on, it's still like bleary against you, like, oh, like you like through this like wintry atmosphere, and finally, like through your goggles, they light up and you see this huge, like, humanoid form, again, almost like it's been carved from obsidian, but the edges of its form almost look incorporeal, like it's made of, like, mist or a black ocean or something instead of like stone or something solid, because the edges of this thing's form always seem to shift, and then you realize what it is. It's because it seems to be exuding, like passively just exuding this black mist this entire time, this black dust, and its head is still like looking down and where it had speared at V and Rev, and you see it's like it's moving quite slow because it's so huge, like its head is going toward its back, and you see through your goggles of night that there are these like white rinds of bone peeking out from its like traps, from its trapezius area, and as it reaches toward one of these white rinds, you sort of see like it like pull like from the depths of its own body another like kind of wet length of marrow out, that sort of ends at a sharp spear point. What do? You're 60 feet away.
I'm going to try and catch the attention of the face area, and then I'm going to cast, using the same magic that Dewey used to infuse his wedding band with the mind shielding magic. He's going to use that to cast Phantasmal Killer.
What the fuck? Okay, how does that work?
I'm tapping into the nightmares of a creature I can see and create an illusory manifestation of its deepest fears, visible only to that creature. So you gotta make a wisdom save. I don't like this thinking look.
Will you be able to see its fears as well as the caster? Let's say you will. Let's say, I think it's more interesting if you can.
Okay.
Okay, what's the DC?
18.
It does not have very high wisdom, this thing. I'm just gonna say right now. It got a nat 1. What am I rolling? I rolled like 3 11s in a row and now 2 nat 1s.
Dewey's first successful spell.
Oh my god. Okay, what does it look like as you like reverberate magic toward it?
I think you just see within, like, from Dewey's point of view, and then you zoom in from his eyes towards, I guess, where the eyes would be on this creature. Not that I think it has any. And then you go like into its brain and you see its deepest fears.
It doesn't have a brain, but I'll tell you what happens here. We zoom in. This thing, as it was looking down at Via Rev, seems to sense you 60 feet away, and it like slowly raises its featureless blank head at you. And that's when you make contact, and you like bing, like a pinprick shooting between its non-existent eyes, like into its forehead. And Dewey, for an instant, you're plunged into darkness. And then you see what it sees. You see the stranger. Taller than the world, a column of blood as its body, wings unfurled, eyes, thousands and thousands and millions of eyes plastering the horizon from north to south, east to west, feathery, darkened wings rippling in this negative spaces between these eyes. You see her. You see Mother. And every single eye, every mutating, pupating iris turns and locks onto you, Hunter, and you get this overwhelming sense of failure just sort of like wash over you. The singular purpose for which you have been designed, you have neglected. And you see the irises shimmer as like spears of black light shoot from every single eye of Mother and pierce through you. And then we like shoot out of like the Hunter's like nebulous nothing brain as it actually takes a step back, reeling from this vision that you've sent it. Like it takes like a huge, massive, like it's slow, like a titan falling, like as it caches itself, and all of you on the ground feel the earth shake and tremble as like a like crack lightning bolts open from underneath its like staggering right heel. What happens with Phantasmal Force in terms of damage and whatnot?
It becomes frightened when it fails its wisdom save, and then at the end of each of its turns, it has to succeed on another save or take damage.
So this thing is immune to the frightened condition, but it can be disoriented, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think instead of like saying it's frightened, let's say it's like taken by surprise for a minute. Okay, yeah, so we just see this thing like momentarily lose like its grasp of the situation, I think, until the end of its turn, presumably. And you just sort of see it like reeling there as you're flying in the air.
Yeah, and the condition ends when you get a successful save.
Wonderful.
So it's going to be thinking about its mom for a little bit.
I mean, you also saw the vision, and you saw those irises lock onto you. And even though it was just a vision, I think it's pretty scary, like scary for you to witness this thing's fears, right?
Yeah.
So now we are going to go to V. You see this thing stumble, right, and stagger. I don't think you can see Dewey because he's like 60 feet in the air, which is out of the radius of the 40 feet of torchlight. But this thing does stagger, like kind of out of nowhere, and like the ground trembles and shakes actually as you're like on top of Rev, who's like, ugh, still disoriented from the spear coming down.
I think V is recomposing herself, shouts out, this thing is beeping at us. Warning, this is beeping at us.
What? What? V, are you okay? You didn't have to do that, stupid.
I think
I'm stronger than you. I can take more hits. Don't do that again, okay?
I think V turns to look at Rev, and Rev sees in V's eyes her pupils, which are like purple and green, kind of look like they look like they're like little flames burning. And V turns back to the creature. I'm going to use a sorcery point to use a quicken spell to cast Investiture of Flame. V is going to erupt into a quick flash of bright light as flames engulf her body, but you can still see her body. These flames aren't like hurting her in any way. She just has flames coming off of her body, of purple and green flames. And she is now immune to fire damage and resistant to cold damage. As she runs to this foot, bear hugs it to the best. I mean, her arms are like, stretched out over it. And in classic V fashion, she's going to cast at level 5 a fireball.
It's because you're immune to fire damage. Oh my god. Okay. It has to make a dex save. It's not very dexterous. What's the DC?
17.
It's huge. It's really strong, but... What is happening? That's my third nat 1 in a row. What is happening? What is
Thank you,
this?
Connie's dice. I'm glad you got my bribe.
What?
I sent them some cookies, and I'm glad that they took them.
Oh my god, okay, yeah. Then it takes double damage. So roll your fireball at 5th level dice twice.
33 points of fire damage.
Okay.
And then for round 2, 29 and 35 additional points of fire damage.
Oh my god. What does it look like?
He just grabs it and be like, no one fucks with my fiance, and boom, just this giant, bright, at first it's bright green, and then it fades into purple while it burns, and then just dissipates out, and you just see like sort of flames flicker away. And
Yeah, I think as the flames peel off away from you, you feel the fire, you can even smell dust burning into void ash nothingness around you, but you don't get hurt at all. Your hair is just unsinged, flapping all around you like a pirate flag, right? And when the greenish exploding flames die down, we all see that there's a little bit of smoke in these huge gouts trailing off of its ankle, but as the smoke clears, it looks still the same as it did before. It's hard to tell when this thing's hurt or if it's really getting hurt because it's just pure black, right? But is there anything else you do, V?
So whenever it ends its turn, if I'm still sitting by it, it's going to receive an additional 1d10 of fire damage. If
Sounds
it
good.
ends its turn by me.
You're clinging on to the top of its foot, holding half of its ankle around because it's so thick and white around a massive tree. Okay. That's the end of your turn?
Yes.
All right, Rev's next. She's gonna laugh out loud at what you did. She's gonna go, V, you are deranged. I love you. And she's gonna flutter over to the other ankle, which is maybe 30 feet apart from it, 30 feet away from it. And at its other ankle, summon Grim and do the same 3 slashes as before. So she's gonna roll for that. Please don't let me roll for shit here. Okay, so technically all 3 of them again are misses, but she's gonna choose to hit and deal 43 points of damage total, as she's just in a flurry of slashing at its base, whirling around, slamming with the butt of Grim, then swirling around and digging, dragging the blade through its inky black void, and whipping some of it out as it cuts through to the other side. And Rev's actually gonna shout out. I think all of you can hear because she's being very loud. This thing, is it even getting hurt? I feel like I'm dealing damage and passing through it, but doesn't even seem bothered.
I am dealing with the dog.
Right, okay, Abiku, thanks for dealing with the dog. We'll just try to take its huge hunter owner down from chipping a single blow at its ankle at a time.
If we just take out the feet, maybe we can get the whole rest of it to fall down.
Not a bad idea. All right, here goes again. And Rev's gonna try to attack it again, right? That's the end of her turn. And now we're gonna go to this thing's turn. So at the end of its turn, it has to repeat the save, right? Max? Okay. Okay, so here's what happens. It's reeling there, its ankles exploding, right? In either direction, one with fire, one with these dark, void slashes of Raven Queen, feathery energy. And then it stalls, right? Centers itself and brings its other foot forward, and all of you hear Rev go, whoa, 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 and she as a reaction flutters away from it as it kicks this other back foot forward and stands steady again, right? All of you feel the earth quiver. And it is going to use its 3 stored reactions to... This is fun. Okay. Dewey, you see that the spear that it had taken out of its back, it's gonna whirl it around slowly and just launch it downward, not at V, not at Rev, but directly at Abiku, and in also the direction of its hound. So Abiku, I need you to make a dexterity saving throw.
18?
If I can see this coming at Abiku, can I yell to warn her?
I don't
Use
know
my
if you can
flash?
see this.
Okay.
I don't know if, yeah, you're kind of high up there. You're because Abiku's kind of farther back, 40 feet away, and you're 60 feet up into the air. So I don't know if you're able to see this happening.
Don't tell me if it succeeds or not. I'm going to use an ability, and I have to know if before it succeeds or fails.
Okay.
So I'm going to use my knowledge of a past life to roll in a d6 in addition. Now it's 22.
Okay. As this massive spear comes hurtling towards you, I think it erupts right next to you, and you're able to dodge out of the way in time. I think before taking the entire brunt of the damage. So describe to me what it looks like as you sense it at the last minute.
I think I'm focused on the Hound. I'm watching Sun and the Hound fight, and I can't see it because it's pure black and it's coming out of darkness. And so I think it's 20, 30 feet over me, and she's uh-oh. And I think instinct, she doesn't do anything, but she feels a gust of wind push her back. She's standing still and she gets pushed back by something else out of the way.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, knowledge of a past life. She's instinctually moving you. And as you I think you're shoved in a straight line away from it as you see this massive spear slice into the ground and the earth erupt up around you. So on a successful save against this move, I need you to roll a d4.
I don't like that. 4?
Okay, roll me 5d10.
Okay. 22.
You are flung 22 feet away as this thing's sonic wave shoots out and the wind tries to push you out of the way. And I think you fly through, you skid on your feet and then you fly up through the air 22 feet away and you land, I think, let's say, why not, close to the boulder behind where the god jar is stored. And you just sort of land there. And now everything, the Hound is 22 feet away, and the Hunter is another 40. So let's say it's a 65 feet. Let's just split the difference. 65 feet away from you, the big feet of the Hunter.
Okay.
That's where you're flung. Ooh, what else do I want to do? Okay. V. The beeping from the spear right next to you. And also, Abiku's son will say, Abiku, as he's lashed onto this Hound that's still trying to throw him off. There's something going on with that huge spear that exploded next to you. It's beeping really fast.
Beeping? I'm not beep beep beep.
Yeah, beep 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 beep. And then V, I need you and Sun to make a dexterity saving throw.
I used another luck point, and I have an unnatural 20.
17.
Okay, that is not quite gonna cut it. So I think this is what happens. V, the spear explodes. that was like lodged right next to its foot. It just absolutely just explodes as the beeping just reaches a fever pitch and poof, and it explodes outward. So you're gonna take, I'm gonna say the full damage, which is what Sun would take, and you're just gonna take half of this. So the full damage is 35 points of slashing and 18 points of fire. So thankfully you're immune to fire.
Right, so I just take half of the 35 then?
Yes, it's rounded down, so that would be 17, I think. Yep, as this like bone shrapnel and shards just fly through the air and this like fiery, but the fire that explodes from it is black. It's like not white flame or blue flame or red flame or orange flame. It's pure black void flames licking out, hungrily devouring everything in reach, sucking the very oxygen out of the air itself as it poof, 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 just explodes outward. Same thing happens, and Sun, I think, Abiku, you can see Sun just like whirl around and go, like, and brace, right, as like the poof, flame explodes around him. But at the last minute, sort of in bullet time, as you see Sun like almost get hurt by this thing, there's a poof, poof, flash of feather as Rev appears next to Sun and pulls him out of danger, actually, like off of the Hound and out of danger, and just sort of like rolls onto the ground and like with like her feather cape as like the fire comes out, right? And Sun goes, oh, thank you. Oh shit, she can't hear me. Abiku, can you say thank you for me, please?
Thank you from Sun, and also thank you from me.
And Rev just like raises like her head up and says, yeah, you got it, V. And like turns around and poof, poof, like teleports back to where you are, V. So how are you doing after that explosion?
I still got, I got like one more good hit. So V's, you know, she took the force. Luckily the fire damage just sort of like engulfed her and just like, she's like fine from that. But the force of the slash just cut through her a bunch. You see like her armor is just like real ripped apart, and she's bleeding pretty good in some spots. She's still cooking though. She's not like passed out or anything.
Yeah, like Rev appears right next to you and she's like looking you up and down. V, damn, are you okay? Here, hold still. And she's gonna like put her like hands over you and try to like heal you a little bit. So her like hands begin to glow with this like dark void magic and like seal up some of your wounds. So you can regain, I mean, she's not a healer. Well, she's a death cleric, but we'll see. You will regain 11 points of damage as she just seals up some surface level wounds and is like hovering over you.
All right. Well, that puts me over half. I've got over half my life again. So
good. Okay, yeah. Okay, and we are gonna go back up to the top of the order. But at the start of this round, something is gonna happen. Dewey, you're the only one who sees because you're up in the air. This thing had saved at the end of its turn against your phantasmal killer. It seemed to have like shaken off whatever like dark psychic tendrils you had cast into its mind, and like it just drifts off of it, sort of like these dusty particulates off of its shoulders, this miasma of void just echoing off of its presence. And you see something kind of horrifying happen, I think. The two sort of like white plates of marrow that are like adorned onto the back of its shoulders glow, this kind of like dark black glow, and you see like just sort of coming out almost like you are weirdly enough thrown back to your time at the URL when you were like mixing potions in like one of those like spinny, like a centrifuge, I think, and like when the potions would come out, like there'd be like a hiss and like steam would come out as like the little vials were released, kind of like that, almost like something's releasing from like the holes in its back. And you see these two massive bone spears like come out that look very different from the other ones it had thrown, and it takes you a minute to realize what they are. They're not spears at all. They're like double swords that it's like pulling out of its back. Like one comes out fully and it's like the length of a freaking river, right? And the other one also comes out and the tip of it just vanishes into the darkness. It's so long that you like don't even know like where it ends. It's half the size of this thing's body, which is over 120 feet tall, right? As it like spreads both of its arms open and like lowers these two swords at its sides. And you get the sense that we're entering like a new phase of the battle or something, right? Like something horrible. Like this thing seems more, I think, annoyed or like vaguely inconvenienced, I think, by your presence than like actually battered, even though collectively you've dealt over 100 damage to this thing already, right? And it just pulls out these things and turns its blank gaze upon like the ground around it. So at the top of your turn, Abiku, I think you feel the weave just sort of tense menacingly around you. You don't see it pull these like bone swords out of its back, but you do feel like a bad gut feeling because you are attuned to nature and you're attuned to the weave, and like if there were birds around here, they'd be like chirping, get out, get the fuck out, right? Like it's like nature's like sort of calling at you to run. Like, and you feel the weave like tensing around you because of it. And make me a perception check, because you're the one who's like flung the farthest away from the camp.
Not too great, but I'm very perceptive. So 23.
You feel the earth very faintly, not like the huge tremors from the hunter's approach, but it's shaking a little. The earth is trembling from something outside of the hunter and the hound. It's just sort of like rattling, and you see a couple of like pebbles near you, like sort of like tremoring and jittering off the surface of the ground. And it seems to be approaching not from behind you, but from the north, behind the hunter. It's your turn.
Okay,
what do you do?
Yeah. Okay. Inkabiku, me Austin won't yell, but I imagine she's yelling, kind of yells at like, oh, okay, so big stops, I get it. Also, something is coming, and as she's saying this, she's like holding out her hand, and this like little like you know, like a little like when like a little dust tornado happens, and you're like, well, go look, and like these like leaves start dancing in her hand, and she puts it down as the tornado continues to spin, and it spins until it's larger and larger as I cast Summon Elemental and Summon an Air Elemental.
Oh my god, how does that work?
How does it work, you say? So technically Summon Elemental Spirit. It's not a full air elemental. It is in my heart. You call forth an elemental spirit. It manifests in an unoccupied space you can see within range. My range is 90 feet, so I'll say it manifests near the Hound, so I don't need to make it move. It's an ally to me and my companions. In combat, it shares my initiative count and goes right after me, so now I have 2 Pokemon out. It obeys my verbal command with no action required, which is... for me, if I don't issue any command, it takes the dodge action.
Okay. This swirling mass of just air like whips into existence, like I think like whipping some of the dust away, like from the Hound, which has sort of like turned onto where like Rev had thrown Sun off and out of danger. And Sun's like shaking himself up and like pulling himself up onto his paws and snarling up at this gargantuan Hound. But the wind elemental like ribbons into existence. And I think there are like, if it's okay with you, Austin, it's kind of cloudy, right? Like there's like little like bits of like mist sort of like gouging off of like the various like incorporeal limbs that it has out. And it's just sort of like whirring there. And the Hound like snaps its huge gnashing maw onto it and growls.
I'll use my bonus action until Sun to keep attacking and verbal command this thing. Like essentially I tell both my Pokemon like, get it.
Okay, yeah. So why don't you have Sun make a bite attack, I assume?
Yes, Sun will make a bite attack. Nah, it's under 20 for sure.
Are you gonna have it miss
hit
again, or will you have it deal damage?
I will have it do damage.
Okay, roll damage.
Yeah, 9 piercing damage.
Okay, yeah, Sun leaps onto this Hound, begins like gnashing its like his teeth into its like void fabric of flesh. And the Hound just sort of lets out like a snort and again in like annoyance or irritation as like Sun's like this little leech like lashed onto its side.
Yeah, that's fair.
What about the wind elemental? What does it do?
It will make 2 slam attacks, so I'll just roll both. Well, that first one's a 1.
Okay. Roll the second one. Roll the second one, and I think I have an idea for how the one can resolve.
And the second one, 19 plus 9, 28.
That does hit. So let's resolve the hit first, and then that one. So have it just roll damage.
I will. Some will use their reaction to give it an extra d6 of lightning damage. It'll take 13 bludgeoning and 5 lightning damage as it slams in, and you see like a little storm erupt inside of it from Sun as it slams into this Hound.
Love it. Little straight bolts of lightning erupt out as Sun's like gnawing onto it, and the wind elemental just slams its like orbiting mass like against the other side of this mastiff. The mastiff stumbles a little and like snaps its huge maw around, like bites at this elemental, but it's literally wind, doesn't seem to get anything yet. And the elemental continues to swirl against it. So here's how I want to do the nat 1, Abiku.
Yes, please tell me.
I want you to roll damage for it.
Okay. Of course it's high. Of course. What was about to happen.
What'd you get?
17. Almost max damage. Yeah.
Stray swirling wind whips all around this hound. This like wind creature is going sort of like buck wild, like on this beast. And Sun, you hear Sun's voice in your head go, Biku, can you control this thing a little bit more? I feel like I'm getting caught in the crossfire.
It is not you. It doesn't listen as well. I'm sorry. It is new. I just got it.
Biku! Abiku! And you can sort of see like Sun struggling to hold on as some of the wind begins whipping him. And Abiku, why don't you tell me, why is it hard to maintain control over this elemental? What about its power threatens to break loose from your grasp?
I think it feels too familiar, and she doesn't like that. She doesn't know why.
Yes, and I think Sun takes that damage as well. The 18, right?
Okay.
It bludgeons into Sun, and because of the nat 1, I think it actually throws Sun off of the hound, and Sun goes, and like flies through the air. There's a clatter of bone. Sun, I think, scatters across the ground before magic like reanimates him and like pulls him back up together. He shakes his head. He goes, ouch, that wasn't good. And I think Abiku, even though like your friend is being hurt, your eyes are trained on this wind elemental because for a split second as it threw Sun off, you think you catch a glimpse of a face in its like swirling depths. A face that feels both familiar and unfamiliar. You just see it like flashing in front of your eyes. And a slender nose, dark skin, full lips, smiling, sunlight coming through, and then like you're jolted back out of the memory.
Yeah, I don't think she has any kind of verbal reaction. I think she continues standing her ground where she's been flung, and cinematically like gets her bow back out.
You just shake it off and you pull out your bow, and like Sun's going, I'm okay, I'll walk it off. Easy damage, as he like pulls himself back up.
Actually, I will tell Sun, get ready for aerial attack next.
You got it. You think that's gonna be necessary?
I think it is very necessary for that thing, yes.
Can we even win against this thing? That's just its dog, and the dog looks fine, and that thing is huge. It's like as tall as the sky.
Listen, us three are dealing with the dog, so the Paragons can focus on the big thing.
Okay, right. Non-Paragons take care of the dog. Paragons take care of the big thing. You got it. Speaking of the Paragons, we snap now to Dewey. Dewey, as you're flying up there 60 feet in the air, top of your turn, make a perception check.
Does a 18 work?
Yes. How far do your goggles of night extend?
60 feet.
Okay, you're 60 feet in the air so you can see the ground, right? Like 60 feet in like a cone around you, let's say. I don't care about numbers. I'm not playing D&D for numbers. Up there, you see like the massive like flightless form of this creature as it like has drawn these swords, and you just feel like the weave kind of distort and waver and tighten and fray around this thing. This thing is definitely an empty beast, and it's freaking powerful. But your goggles of night, I think, actually slide down. And like I think you feel some like sweat coming down your beak as movement beyond this beast, behind this humanoid gargantuan figure, catches your eye. And your yellow eyes snap down and fix on a massive herd. Like a stampede of animals. There is like, you just see like the first like part of it, like the like stagger into view, and there's at least like 100 animals. You see like gazelles and horses and zebras and antelopes and cattle, and you even see a freaking elephant or two like like throwing its trunk up, ivory tusks flashing as it enters the fray, right? There's like a sea of animals washing forward. It seems to be charging at this gargantuan creature from behind, right? That's what you see, and it's getting closer. And Dewey, you feel something pull at you, at your sternum, like a hook has been sort of like inserted behind the navel of your soul and is sort of like trying, like a fishing line, trying to reel you in from behind you, around in the direction of where Abiku and the God Jar are. Like a thread of the weave trying to pull you, trying to almost like tug at you, almost softly, to turn around. But in front of you is your adversary and the herd. What do you do?
Like, no one else can see the herd right now, right? So
No.
Dewey's gonna go, oh shit, and then like drop out of the air towards his friends.
Okay.
So he's gonna drop down to the ground and try and get whoever's near him, be like, it's coming, the herd's coming, get to the boulder.
It's V
Or
and
like-
Rev. Yeah, V and Rev are both down there. Well,
Yeah, he's-
What do you mean the herd's coming? What are you talking about? And Rev is like whirling around, like
can't
slicing
feel
out
it?
this thing and fighting. I'm in the middle of feeling a lot of things as she like dodges to the side as like the foot like steps up and tries to stomp at her.
The herd is coming, get over here. And Dewey just takes off because she can teleport or whatever. Both of them can teleport.
V, what do you do in response to Dewey? Would you follow or stay?
I think V would stay until she sees either Rev saying it's time to go or even a Biku. Like, V can teleport. She's fine.
Okay. If V stays, Rev stays. Then like you do your best to call a warning, and you're gonna use the rest of your movement, I assume, to like fly back toward the boulder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, you do that. You just like cut through the air like a knife, like an arrow, right? And you land, I think, close to where Abiku is, who you see Abiku has like drawn her bow, right, and is like squaring off against the Hound.
He does his best to like hook an arm around. I guess she's maybe too tall for that if she's got her arms up.
Maybe around a leg or a waist.
Please try.
He's gonna like grab onto the side of her shirt the best he can and give it a good pull, but like he's just gonna go, the herd is coming, come on, get to cover.
Yes, you should get wait. The herd you are looking for? Shouldn't you go the other way?
It's stampeding. I'll look at cover.
Isn't that thing here to... Didn't we think it's here to kill the herd? Shouldn't you be going to protect the herd because you are Geltinger?
I can't protect it if I'm getting run over, and neither can you. Come on.
We have to make sure the herd is safe. You go. It is more
He gives
important
up.
for you to get us safety.
He sees this is a futile effort and dives towards the boulder with his god jar.
Yeah, Dewey, as you dive toward it behind it, Abiku, I think, like, for flavor, you're, like, loosing arrows, like, at the Hound, like, you're, like, staying strong, standing your ground, just like V and Rev. So, Dewey, for, like, a quick moment, let's say the boulder's maybe 15 feet away from Abiku or something, no big deal, kind of far away, you dive behind it, and you see that the god jar is intact. It's totally fine. It's maybe, like, there's, like, some dust that's settled over it, because there's kind of dust, almost like a sandstorm, all around you, wafting off of this gargantuan shadow hunter, and you check the jar, it's totally fine. You, like, hide behind the boulder, and yet again, you feel that tugging sensation, right? Hooked behind your sternum, somewhere between your sternum and your belly button, like a thread of the weave pulling you, tugging you toward the darkness, right? Like there's something in the darkness that's calling to you, Dewey. And you feel the weave tighten. And Dewey, your eyes fall upon a pinprick of golden light that flickers into existence maybe 100 feet or something away from you, just directly in front of you. And this little like miniature sunbeam gets like bigger and bigger as it seems to like approach. And as it does, Dewey, you feel it first, a sensation of immense pressure. You've felt this sensation several times before, first in the Ujval mines, and then at the Weave-Spun Nest, and then in the heart of the carnival, and then in front of the Emperor. And you feel it now, as this miniature sun gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think you're rooted there, right? It's almost like this, like a vacuum force wave, like pressing down at you, exerting outward, just this like aura of pure magical power. And Abiku, you feel it too. And I think, Abiku, because you are not a paragon, that feeling that hits you from behind sort of like buckles you at the knees. and I think you fall to your knees, like almost like you're at the bottom of the ocean suddenly, and this like tons and tons and tons of force are just like pressing down on you like immediately. You buckle to your knees and your hands hit the ground. Make me a strength check. Check, not a save. You can roll athletics too, if you have proficiency.
I do not have proficiency in athletics, so that is just a 13.
13. You stay there for 13 seconds before, like, I think your muscles give out and you buckle, like, you fall down onto your elbow and then down onto, like, your chest, and it's like a very heavy boulder is on top of you, and I think sweat begins to drip down, and you start to lose consciousness, Abiku, just, like, from whatever's behind you, like a huge dinosaur foot just clawing down on you. It doesn't hurt, but it's extremely uncomfortable. And Dewey, your eyes continue to fix on that like little glowing sunbeam getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And when it's maybe 50 feet away, the sun sheds light on the thing that's causing it to shine. And you see stepping out of the darkness, like wrapped in its own radiant golden light, Dewey, you see a white cow. It's beautiful. It's got like a hide of just like pure like alabaster, right? Like not a single spot, nothing at all. These big like black eyes with these long lashes. And it's just like striding very like gracefully and serenely toward you. And it's got these like two black horns that just rake up from its forehead, and suspended between the horns is a miniature sun. That's what the light is. It's just glowing. And you hear Galtanger's voice in your head, Dewey. Go.
My Paragon, it took you long enough.
And we're gonna cut to break on that. So we will be back in 10 minutes. Thank you so much for tuning into Arc 5 Episode 8 so far. We'll be back in 10. Enjoy the BRB music. See you in 10. Bijou.
Content warnings for this episode include fantasy violence, body horror, gore, monsters and monstrosity, death and killing, apocalypse, trauma, animal violence, complex and complicated relationships, flirting, and romance.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Arc 5, Episode 8 of our Kheer Tal session called Summer Sun. Let's get right back into it. Before we do, content warnings for this episode and our campaign may include fantasy violence, body horror, gore, monsters and monstrosity, discussion of death and killing, apocalypse, trauma, complex and complicated relationships, flirting, romance, and animal violence. So use !CW in chat for a full list of content warnings and !safety for a look at the cast's lines and veils. So with that out of the way, let's hop right back into the session. Dewey, your back pressed against this winter slick boulder, your feathered hands and arms clinging onto this god jar, Abiku prone, like pressed down by the weight of divinity next to you, right? One hand still wrapped around her bow. I think you could see like her eyes like fluttering as she's like struggling to hold on to consciousness here, right? As you hear the god shard of Galtanger's voice reverberate in your mind as warm and radiant as the sun itself.
Well, my Paragon, what are you waiting for? We have to run away from the hunter now.
We're just running?
I have a plan. Don't worry.
And these like the glistening, like beautiful, huge, like doe-like eyes on this cow, like I think move past you, like past the Abiku and like toward this huge thing. And we're gonna actually like rubber band toward where V and Rev are fighting this thing. So V, why don't you just give me like some flavor about how you're like battering the ankles of this gargantuan hunter?
Yeah, I think V's sort of next maneuvers would be like to run up the leg, and she's like casting fireball at the highest level she can, except not at level 7, but all the other levels she's casting fireball. She's using sorcery points to do it a bunch of times. She's just going to town throwing fire at this thing as much as possible.
Yeah, we see V like fucking Spider-Manning it, like up the limb, and little like from the distance we see like little like flowers of like green and purple bloom up like the length of this thing's like calf, almost like little fireworks like coming off. But again, it doesn't seem bothered. It just seems mildly annoyed. Fireball after fireball, sorcery point after sorcery point, until V, even like I think your Paragon form is like in full glow and like some sweat's coming down your brow. Rev is doing the same thing. We see these little flashes of like feathery raven uneven slashes as like she's going at the other leg. But this thing is just sort of like stomping its foot, right? And we see like its huge white blades like cutting through the air, trying to like shave you off like a razor, right? But like y'all are like dodging it, and it's like, it's insane. Like, this is like a fight. This is like miniature people going up against a freaking kaiju, right? It's like these little ants like climbing up its leg, and it's like annoyedly trying to bash you down. And Abiku, you see this through like hazy eyes, right? Like your like eyes are filling with like this haze, and there's like this kind of buzzing sound all around you that's like pulling you into like the depths of just like incapacity. And you see like the hound like growl and snap at Sun. Does Sun remain up even if you fall unconscious, Abiku?
Yeah, if I fall unconscious, Sun just starts fighting on their own without me needing to say anything.
Okay, sounds good. You just see like Sun like going at this hound, and like your elemental like whipping around it, like pestering it on either side, and you hear Sun's voice in your head go, Abiku, hey, Abiku, what's going on?
I heard Galtenga, you don't feel that?
What? Galtanger? What are you? Ugh. And you see, even as you're like pressed there, like struggling to like hold on to consciousness, you see like Sun suddenly stumble as you assume like the pressure wave from Galtanger like hits him too. And they like fall off, and they get caught by like an errant swipe of like the hound's paw, and they like sort of fly through the air and like land in a pile of bones, clatter, 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 like kind of close to where you are. They like roll to a stop, like dust skidding up. And like Anna like magic reanimates them, but they suddenly like become stock still, even as like a femur starts to clack into place. What is that? What? And you see like the bones like quiver in front of you and like struggle to stay like cohered. What's happening? What? This was just like Nebuza.
Yes, before I pass out, and I use an action to unsummon Sun, so they don't have to be in pain with me.
Yeah, Sun just goes, Abiku! And then like collapses, right? And like disappears in like a poof of magic, right? And I think that's the last thing you see Abiku before I think you just straight up fall unconscious for like a hot minute there. Yeah, you just collapse onto the ground. V and Rev, this thing is not going down. And you don't know what's happening with the hound, but it lets out some sort of growl of victory, like some sort of like victorious, like from behind you. And Rev's just going, what the hell is happening back there? But before you can answer, V, this thing that you've been attacking the legs of begins to turn around. Its attention drawn to the ginormous herd of animals that's now running past it. The animals are running kind of like directly at it, but almost as like a hive mind, kind of veered off at an angle, like to the right, and are like galloping away from this thing. And you see it actually like lob one of its like spear swords like into the middle of the herd, and you see like a couple of like animals fight through the air, and like the earth erupts, but the majority of the herd continues galloping onward. And this thing begins to pursue. Right? Like you and Rev feel another sonic pulse erupt from its left foot as it stomps down and starts to follow the herd slowly, like a very slow giant. And the hound, which was like growling and advancing on like the incapacitated Abiku, snaps its head up and turns around as it feels this like dark void pulse wave, and it obeys its like owner's command, its hunter's command, and turns and begins to like just sort of sprint after the hunter. As the hunter like turns to like ignore your party and like is distracted by this herd galloping off to the east. And you also hear the of like the massive stampede just moving east. V, what do you do as your enemy begins to leave?
I think V is gonna, at this point, notice like Abiku's down. Dewey is nowhere to be seen, hiding behind a rock. And what happened to the rest of our horses? Did they unhitch themselves? Did they run away?
They were still hitched. They have like whinnied them like all the fear out of their body. They're just sort of panting there and like sweating really heavily. Their eyes like wide, the whites of their eyes like huge and exposed. But all of the horses, Shadow included, who's maybe a little ways away from the hitching post, all of their heads are turned and fixed on something beyond the boulder where Dewey is leaned up against.
And would Scarlet Nectus at all be giving me some, would they be feeling the Galtanger's presence and be saying anything or communicating?
I think so. At this point, I think that pressure wave has reached you and Rev. And Rev sort of gasps and like holds on, like grabs onto like her leather armor, like at her torso, and like looks at you. And V, you also feel that a sensation sort of like ripple up through your body, almost like a resonance, like two musicians playing notes that are in harmony with each other. Different notes, but they complement each other. It's just like vibrate through your body, through your very soul itself. And you feel Scott and Nectus, these like twin deities, sort of like rise up, bubble up like dust at the bottom of the ocean, spiraling upward in response to it. And you just hear the whispered voices of Scott and Nectus go,
She's here. Galtinger.
I think with that, then V is going to shout to Rev that we gotta go that way towards that boulder, and
Rev goes, what? Hold on, V, and disappears in like a whirlwind of feathers and reappears right next to you, Dewey. And she pauses, like in front, like protectively in front of Abiku's fallen body, as Rev also sees this pure snow white calf, this cow, just sort of like standing there, maybe 30 feet away from where Dewey is, just sort of staring placidly, right? Implacable, like you can't part. It's a fucking cow. Like you don't know what expression is going on this thing's face, right? As it just stares in your direction. It's her. V, get over here.
I think V will use like the last of her sorcery points to get a dimension door and just flash over there.
Where are we running to?
We've already run. When I said we, I was referring, of course, to all of my other thralls.
And the cow sort of lifts its neck up and like indicates the direction where the herd had stampeded off to.
That thing, the hunter that has been pursuing me this entire time, ever since the cataclysm ripped our world apart. It is bloodthirsty, and it never stops. But it can be tricked. I've bought us some time, my paragon. I've been waiting for you for so long. I could feel your presence in the weave so far away from me, but now you're here.
I'm here. I made this for you. And he holds out the god jar.
Abiku, let's say you're still slipping in and out of consciousness. Let's say you can hear all of this, right? But like your eyelids are kind of fluttering. You're like moving. It's almost like in a dreamlike state. Dewey, you hold out the god jar and you see this like cow's eyes like fall upon it.
What is that?
It's a vessel. I need your help, but like I'm not strong enough. So I made this. That's what I do.
You make cages? Prisons? Tools of violence and control?
It's not a cage. I would know. No, it's like a temporary holding, not cell.
I know a cage when I see one, Paragon. Your predecessor, Karvach. She was a prisoner of war before I found her, made her into my Paragon. I know what it feels like to have my wings clipped.
But this, you definitely don't want to be held in this body. And he like sort of does the gesture to himself.
Why not? You are my Paragon. You have been chosen by destiny itself to become one with me.
Have you seen me? This body is broken. There are, yes, chosen. I was chosen, but like, we all make bad choices.
Skad, Nectus, sister.
And Galtanger, like, you feel, when Scott and Nectus's names are called, you feel them, like royal in you, and Rev sort of, as, like, sister is called.
What is this?
I think V, like, feels this and just is like, Dewey, it's time. Just do it.
Can't I?
As you're, I think maybe as you're stalling there, yeah, Dewey, Galtanger cuts in and says,
"Why have you made a cage, a prison for me? You mean to entrap me while you seek your own freedom? Am I to be a sacrifice? Am I and the other god shards to be sacrifices so that our paragons might live while we die against the stranger?
Look, even if I take you into my soul or whatever, and this body goes up against me, I go up against the stranger, there's no guarantee we succeed. Can't fly, can't crow. Like, not really a good paragon here.
You.
And Abiku, you feel the pressure lift. Like a finger like a giant's finger coming off of your body for like a split second, and but like I think you're able to like move, and like everything comes like rushing back to you, colors and sounds, like in full clarity.
You are his friend, are you not? Speak. Can you attest to his character?
You are okay. I'm sorry. I can't talk to animals, so this isn't too weird. Attest to Dewey?
Yes, to my paragon.
Oh, you are Galtenga. It's a pleasure to see you again.
I am a fragment of an echo of Galtenger. This,
and the cow looks down at its front,
is not my body, not my true one. It is merely a memory of a manifestation of one of my myriad forms.
Oh. Okay, thank you for the clarification. You want me to tell you why Dewey should be your paragon? You already picked him. I don't think you would doubt yourself.
Did not pick him. Destiny, a force greater than even the 8 of us, picked him and you.
And she turns to you, V.
And you.
And turns to Rev.
But here, I see someone struggling against his own destiny, so... Abiku, is it? Can you vouch for his character?
Yes, I mean, Dewey is like most of us, most people down here struggle with... Some people struggle to pick breakfast in the morning. I don't anymore, but I'm sure it used to be quite hard to think how to start the day, but you are asking
Okay,
him...
that's enough.
And you feel like the finger pressed down again. like you fall back down, right? Rev lets out excuse me, Shard of Galtenger, listen, this one, it is true, he struggles against his fate, but don't we all? Isn't there some way that thing is gonna be back? We have to work together. There's no time to quarrel. Can you get in him, even if he doesn't want you to? Is that possible? And Rev's looking around, and Galtenger, this manifestation of her, fixes her like glistening eyes upon Rev and says,
"You should know, Paragon of Death Incarnate, that the Raven Queen does not take unwilling hosts. She sent you on a journey of self-discovery before allowing you to accept her. Did you not?"
And Rev lets out and like the voice that comes out of her is not her own.
"Yes, I did, sister. But you have a different methodology than me. You always have. You take what you want, don't you?" "Perhaps, but that is not the way here."
And Galtenger turns her gaze back on you, Dewey.
Please, it's just like a temporary thing. You'll have to trust me in that my intentions are good. I'm not strong enough.
Like, there is like a pronounced pause as Galtenger, this white calf just like looks at you, and then she says,
"Trust my jailer. Trust the person leading me like a lamb to slaughter into the jaws of the stranger. I am sorry, Cardew, but I cannot. And I will not abide prisons."
And when she says the word prisons,
It's
the
not.
god, on you saying it's not, the god jar in your hands becomes extremely hot. Right? It like burns up, actually. And then it just cracks and shatters. As you see like the little miniature sun between Galtenger's horns like flare up. and the god jar that you have spent so much time working over, like figuring out how to put together, finally putting this fight, like everything you've sacrificed, your friendship with Kilohana and Pardnak, the blueprints, Oka's soul getting ripped out of their body, the Emperor's assassination, all of that just crumbles into 1,000 pieces in your hands as Galtanger explodes it.
I think Dewey takes a long moment with his hands like where the jar used to be in his hands and looks down at this just pile of pieces. And then when he looks up again, is the cow still there?
Galtanger is still there and it's sort of like regarding you with a very cold, kind of like cold fire, stern look. And she says,
I need to go. My herd needs me. Without its leader, it cannot hope to outwit or outrun the hunter. I will rejoin my herd for now. You, my destined paragon, you are in denial. Come back when you're ready to finally accept your destiny. Do you think I want to die at the hands of the stranger? I refuse, but this is not the way.
There has to be a way, though, and I don't know which will work and which won't, but I need your help.
Then you've taken the first step to accepting the inevitable.
and with that, Galtanger's like the miniature sun suddenly flares very, very, very bright, and I think it's like blinding. And when the light like dies down, she's gone. And Abiku's like, I was like, oh my god, like a gasp, like you could suddenly like move and like talk and like do things again.
As I was saying, did you do it? Did I mess it up?
No, you didn't mess it up, Abiku. The person who got himself into this mess did.
And Dewey sort of just like slumped against this boulder. Like he slid down a little bit and is just sort of staring blankly at this pile of ceramic pieces.
And on like Dewey just like staring at these shattered pieces like emptily, like the words of your prophesized god still ringing in your ears. We're gonna end the session there. So everyone, thank you for tuning in to Arc 5 Episode 8, the fourth session of our Kheer Tal party. Dewey's having a great time. I mean, Abiku's chilling. V is blasting things up. Oh, wow. Okay, I've been your GM and creative producer, Connie. My pronouns are they, he, and she. You can find me on Twitter and TikTok and toss a coin to your Connie at Ko-Fi at by Connie Chong. That's BYCONNIECHANG. I'm going to pass along introductions to Erica.
Hi, I'm Erica, she, her pronouns, and I played V. Oh, I'm going to have some words for Dewey next session, not sure, so you can find me at Erica Newgirl everywhere on social media, and come watch me on Twitch where I stream speed runs of Resident Evil and Fallout 4 and other things. Max?
Hey, I'm Max, my pronouns are they, them. I've played Dewey, bad at pitching himself, quirk. You can find me on Instagram, at Stitchmonger, which is where I do my sewing stuff. I just posted some new stuff that I made, so come check me out. Austin.
I'm Austin. My pronouns are he, they, and she. I just got done playing Abiku. Please learn how to speak shorter sentences, Ishtar. You can find me on Twitter at Sailor Scott Austin, at Sailor SCT Austin. You can also find me every Wednesdays on my other podcast, Secret Histories of Nerd Mysteries, where me and my good friend Brenda go over just like the deepest of deep dives. This is recorded in the future, but the most recent episode as this recording was KB Toys. By the time you see this, it'll be something else. But there's a bunch of episodes. We have over 72 episodes as of this recording, and that'll still be true because we don't delete them, thankfully.
Heck yeah, that's an awesome podcast. Everyone should check it out. And yeah, tune in next week for Arc 5 Episode 9. We're going to go back to our Dabathati party. What are they going to be up to after that huge revelation we just encountered with them last week? Well, I guess we're going to figure out that next week. We love you all so much. We will see you Saturdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. See you next week. Shpijo, bijo. Bye, 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 bye. Bye, bye, bye.